Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Develop podcast. This is your host, Danielle Reynolds, and I'm excited to be back with you all to connect, grow, and inspire together. So a huge part of our Develop program here at Whitley Penn focuses on the growth of our leaders and sharing what has happened during their careers to lead them to the opportunities they have been given. We always say that everyone has a story. So what better way to stay growth focused than by hearing from leaders of all backgrounds who have different stories that have all led them to where they are at now. So there is certainly no perfect path, and sometimes we have to hit a few bumps along the way in order to make it out even better than we could have imagined. It's all about consuming content that is going to lead you forward and create the leader mentality that is going to get you there. With that, I'm excited to welcome Nathen McEown, audit partner and partner in charge of the Houston office. Nathen, thanks for being here with us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to spend some time with you, and maybe it's kind of awkward to talk about yourself a little bit, but I'm definitely excited to do it.
It's good. We all love talking about ourselves, so it should be pretty easy.
Secretly I do, but I said that to be humble.
Well, we will dive right into it and get to know you. So let's take it way back. Tell me about where you grew up and what childhood was like. Were you always born to be a leader from a young age?
So I grew up in Rockwall, Texas. Jacket fight, never die. And we have some other Rockwall alumni at Whitley Penn, so excited to have that. It's small town at the time. It's obviously really big now. I have two sisters and two great parents. Pretty, I'd say, great childhood. No big drama or big things that I had to really overcome, I'd say. So blessed for that. I wouldn't say I was a leader at a young age. I don't know. I guess it was kind of a floater, right? And some people maybe are driven at different points in their lives. And for me, I don't know. I didn't really, I kind of just did what I had to do in school. I did some sports and played basketball a little bit, but then kind of got too time intensive, and so I stopped doing that. So it really wasn't until college where I had a moment. We all have these impactful moments where I kind of came to the realization, oh man, I need to do something and be diligent about it and really put an effort if you want to excel, kind of post-college.
Awesome. So it sounds like then you developed a lot of your leadership tips and tricks along the way at a later age in life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was, maybe it's, cliche, but I was in a fraternity early in college, and in there, I was given positions, and I kind of I remember one speech when we were freshmen, and it was an older gentleman in the fraternity that said, listen, if you don't have a 4.0 or you're not a leader and this and that, you got to have something that sets you apart. If you think you're just going to flow through college and all of a sudden be successful, that's not really how it works. And for some reason, that one moment struck with me, and so I started studying more, and I got a 4.0, and then I started trying to become a leader in the organization. So that, weirdly enough, that one moment just made me realize, okay, I got to start taking things serious.
Awesome. And that just proves you never know where your different opportunities are going to lead you and what's going to stick out to you the most. So let's fast forward a few years. You're a young college freshman at Texas Tech trying to figure out where life is going to go, and you choose accounting as your major. How, why, and what led you to that decision?
So actually I started, I was 1999 high school grad. So that was, amidst of the dot-com boom. So I actually started in computer science and engineering school. And a terrible way to find your major is basically I looked up what's the highest paying degree at the time, undergrad, and it was computer science. So I said, oh, then that makes sense. I should go computer science. I took my first programming class as a freshman. I realized programming is definitely not for me. It was really monotonous and boring, and just did not enjoy it at all. And so quickly after my first year, I was kind of in a spot where I don't know what I want to do. My dad always said, you know what, I think you'd be good at business. You should go to business school. So I went to business school. 2000 hit. There's a little bit of a downturn in the economy, 2001, 2000. I was still kind of floating around trying to decide what I was going to do. I was in my first accounting class, and my dad actually got laid off. He's in advertising, great at what he does, but anytime there's a downturn in the economy, advertising's cut. These big agencies go from 100 to 50 people. So he was laid off, and that was impactful because I was like, man, is he going to be able to pay for college? Like, what's going on? And so that worried me, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to pick something where I never have to worry about not having a job. And I was in this accounting class. They kept on telling me, okay, everyone gets a job right coming out. I got an A in the class, and so things just kind of came together. It clicked in my head. It seemed very stable. And so whether that was the best reason to pick a major or not, for me, it was perfect. I then just really threw myself into it, and I'm so lucky all that kind of came together and pointed me this direction.
Awesome. Well, the profession itself is definitely not a boring one, so it sounds like you found your perfect fit. So I personally love when we are presenting to campus. And by the way, if y'all don't know this by now, but Nathen is also the partner in charge of our campus development. So a leader who wears many hats. And now you know that. But when we are presenting to different schools, you openly share that you were only interviewing, I believe, with one firm, a Big Four firm, and didn't receive an offer and stumbled upon Whitley Penn. Let's talk about that and what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, I think somewhat because I came into accounting probably a year too late, I wasn't as in tune with the recruiting process. So I came into it late. I did interview with a few firms, but there's really one that I gravitated towards. And at the time, it was very different. So only 8 firms, I think, recruited on campus at Tech, whereas today there's like 24. So there wasn't as much variety. These rise of the middle market firms didn't really happen yet. And so you just kind of thought, or were told, oh, you got to go Big Five. Big Five at the time. There's not even 5 now. And so there was one I really gravitated towards, but I had one C. I had one accounting C, and for whatever reason, this firm latched on to that. And you're like, no, we just can't give you an offer, but I like you, so I'm going to introduce you to someone else. And so that person introduced me to Whitley Penn, because at the time Whitley Penn wasn't even coming on campus to recruit. They were kind of doing it just through phone call and whatnot. And I guess they knew each other previously and said, I like this kid, but for whatever reason, I can't force to bring him on, so you should take him a look. Give him a look. So anyway, Whitley Penn gave me a look. I was very excited, because then once I got to know Whitley Penn more through the recruiting process, I was like, man, this is really a better fit for me, right? They at the time, they had maybe 45, 50 people. I like more of the big fish in a small pond, going to an office of 1,000 people. I thought that's what you had to do, and it was exciting to learn that that's not what you don't have to do, or you don't have to do that. And so anyway, it all came full circle, and I was able to start with Whitley Penn, and the rest is history, but I feel lucky all that happened.
Yeah, I think what an amazing opportunity that you stumbled upon, and it's really led you to so many different things, especially as you've grown here only at Whitley Penn. So, and I believe you were the first ever intern. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, when I came on board, we had 8 people in the Dallas office. I think there was about 50 or 60 in Fort Worth. And so, yeah, it was very different. We didn't have receptionists. All our phone calls went to Fort Worth, and then they got routed to us. I think as an intern, I picked up all the mail every day. So first intern in audit, and all we had at the time in Dallas was audit. It's amazing. A lot of the people I learned from at that time are now partners. And so it's exciting to see what growth we've had. But yeah, it was very different then. I was a class of 1.
So fun to be a part of.
And now we have 50 starting.
It's
60.
crazy. Yeah. Well, way to start the trend. So let's move on to fears and failing forward. Tell me about some struggles you experienced early on as a young professional. Was there ever a time when you didn't think you would stay in public accounting?
Yeah, I mean, public accounting is not. It's a hard profession in the beginning, because you're just learning so much so quickly. And there's a lot of expectations and demands, and some people thrive in that and some people don't. And even those that thrive have times when they struggle. And so, I think it was my second year of being a senior, and being a senior in public accounting, I think, is probably the hardest years of your career, just because you're advancing from staff, you're getting a lot more responsibility, you're juggling a lot, you have several managers you're answering to and partners. And so it's just it's a tough time, but if you can get through those years, I mean, you're so much a better professional, and then you learn so much. But anyway, second year being a senior, just getting to the tail end of busy season, I got a review from a manager that I didn't necessarily agree with. I was kind of burnt out. I get this review I didn't agree with. I probably took it a little more emotional, and I learned from that now since, like, man, you can't take these things emotional. You got to take it as constructive criticism, and really think about what they say, and whether you agree or not, perception is reality. And so if that person perceives that, you need to think about, okay, what can I do to correct not only his perception, but others? And so I think, after getting that, I probably was a little too emotional and thought about, man, is this for me? And I just took some time. And then, you have peaks and valleys in your career, and every time things get tough, if you're like, okay, I'm out, then there's, you're going to miss out on a lot because, then 2 months later, you're like, okay, this is awesome again. So I'm glad I took some time back, and now I realize, man, don't get emotional. Take it for what it is, and always appreciate criticism rather than, getting personally offended by it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Do you have any other advice I know you just touched on that senior role being such a pivotal role in your career, especially in public accounting. Any other advice for specifically to our seniors here at the firm of why and what are the best reasons to stay in it if this is really your passion?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's the years when you're learning the most, and it's coming at you, through a water hose, so to speak, but or fire hydrant, I think is the saying. But it's just you got to fight through it, because if it's easy, then you're not learning, and if it's easy, you're not developing. So don't shy away from the hard times, and I promise if you kind of wait until you make to manager, things switch a little bit, and I wouldn't say the demands are necessarily dramatically lower, but they just evolve. And so, your role as a manager, you're using more of your manager skills and your mindset rather than, the day-to-day doing. And so that evolvement, which can happen very quickly, roughly 5 years into your career, I think it's worth it to see that through.
Yeah, and it's just a season. You'll get through it.
That's right.
Awesome. So what lessons did you learn early on in your career? I know you touched on some, but what lessons still play an impact in your role as a leader today?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a lot of great mentors coming up, and I think I was very fortunate. I tried to take something from all of them. I think what I tried to do, and I remember thinking this way as a senior, is put me on the messiest jobs, put me on the hardest things, the things that no one else wants to do, because then people kind of look at you like, you know what, throw anything at him, and he'll kind of take care of it, and he's not going to be, he's not going to shy away from it. Just don't, because sometimes if you lean the easy way, or, oh man, I've been on this client forever, so man, I can just get through it. Take the new exciting client. Take the one that maybe is a little bit messy. You got to dig in. Because if everything just checks the box and A always equals B or whatever, and it's always the same, then you're not really going to develop. So go after the messy stuff. Be the guy or the female that is willing to step in there when it's not easy and kind of go the extra measure. And you'll earn a lot of goodwill with the people that you're helping out. And you'll just learn more. You'll be a better professional for it.
Yeah, I love that you said take on those messy opportunities, and we'll talk about this a little later on during this episode, but I think that's what really led you to so many doors opening for you as a leader, because you were willing to take on those messy opportunities. So I'm sure you get this question a lot. Do you have any advice you would give your younger self now, knowing what you already know now?
It depends what state of youth you're talking about. I mean, I think back to my college days and how much free time you have, but you think you have none. And I wish I would have done more with that free time, right? Other than play probably Tiger Woods golf or whatever I was doing at the time. But, in my career, I would say, you look at leaders or other mentors, and, you can get something from everybody. I think early in my career, I probably focused on one or two individuals and saying, okay, well, they're the best, so I need to be this. But, the reality is everyone has something that they're really good at. And so pull from all of them so you can be more well-rounded. There's going to be some people that are more technical. You look at Matt Ryder. That guy is just a brilliant person, and I feel lucky to be worked under him, and I think that helps my technical abilities. You can have a guy like Felix, man. That guy and his skills to be able to get personal with somebody and connect. And he can talk to anybody, and I feel like I've learned from that. I'm never going to be as good at that as him, but I appreciate being able to take a little bit of that from him. And then you have people that are good at the administration side and just managing an engagement. And so, don't just focus on one person. Really try to grab a little bit from everybody and become this kind of superhuman accountants, so to speak. You have the good of everybody, and then focus on maybe you see something in somebody you don't like, and really try to be thoughtful and not being like that when you kind of come up the ranks. But I mean, I think that's something that I learned later in my career.
Yeah, I love that you said that, and I'm sure all these leaders also pull great things that you do from your leadership style. So it's great to hear you say, look at people's strengths and how they're doing something, and you should always be constantly learning to develop yourself. So I think we live in a time right now, especially where we have so many different opportunities around us now that a lot of young professionals find it appealing to maybe hop around after a couple years here and there. Do you have any advice on this? Maybe this was something you thought about early on in your career. Maybe it wasn't, but what advice can you share?
Yeah, I mean, they say it's generational, possibly. I'm not really sure and can't speak to that. But I'd say what I find fascinating is, man, you can join a firm as an intern. And if you like it and things, work well and everyone's getting benefit out of it, you can be there for your entire career. I mean, the idea of starting with a firm and being there for 35, 40 years, to me, I mean, that sounds so appealing. And so for me, the idea of bouncing around, if you look at most people that go into industry, they really change jobs every 3 to 5 years. And so, you got to think about every time you change a job, you got to build that goodwill again, right? You got to restart those relationships. And so it's really nice that I can look back, being at Whitley Penn, 16, 17 years, whatever it is. And I've known Felix for that long. I've seen people below me that are now partners, and I get to see the development of their career. And so I think, if you bounce around, you can miss out a lot. The money will ultimately be there and more some if you really stick it out. But that a few dollars in the beginning is never going to be as impactful as sticking around and continuing to develop your skills. And then also, you're getting further along in the food chain, so to speak, at the firm. It's tempting, especially in the middle of busy season or coming out of a tough time. But, I always tell people, if you're going to think about making a move, step back. Maybe 30 days later, do you still feel the same way? 45, because if you do it in the heat of the moment, you're going to make a bad decision.
Yeah, really valuable advice. I know people are going to rewind and re-listen to that part again. So you've had your whole career spent public accounting. So how has accounting changed and evolved since when you first started to where it's at now?
Yeah, I mean, I came out right after the whole Sarbanes-Oxley boom, and that really kind of changed the dynamic in terms of the firms. These smaller middle market firms really started to explode. If you look at the top 50 firms now compared to early 2000s before Sarbanes-Oxley, I mean, the revenue is just drastically different. And so when I came out, it was kind of the beginning of the new regime, so to speak. And so you felt like you had to go Big Four to get this special experience. And now I'm so excited that at Whitley Penn, I mean, you can get the same, if not better, experience, right? You can go international. You can work in a secondment in London. You can go to Australia. You can have clients in Canada. I mean, we have clients all over the States, international. We have the Nexia Alliance. We have public companies, private equity. So every dynamic of industry and type of client you can get here that you can get at the Big Four firms. And so that's really exciting to me that we can offer that, but yet we still have our culture. We still have our smaller offices. We still have, we try to look at the individual. It's not, okay, well, we're going to rank all of our 20,000 seniors. They're either 1, 2, or 3. And if you're a 3, you get it's really no. Well, let's talk about, this senior Hayden in particular. And Hayden is different. And so it's an individual look. And I think that's so special that we can do that, but yet offer the Big Four kind of experience in terms of technical capabilities and clients.
Certainly something that sets us apart and I think is equally as exciting. So what excites you most about the profession, specifically relating to the current role you are in? And then what excites you for young professionals just getting started? And you kind of touched on this, but any other things that...
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, what I love about the profession is, we could stay the same size and I'd be a partner and I'd be fine, and the current partners are fine, right? but we have to grow to create opportunity for those below us. And there's nothing more fulfilling than making a new partner. I think that is like just super exciting. In Houston, every time we do it at the Christmas party, we have a toast for them. And that's just, it's fun to see someone that came in as an intern, worked hard, and really, gave their all for the firm. And now we can offer them some ownership and a partnership. And to me, there's just nothing more fulfilling than that. Everyone talks about partner and, money, financial, that's all okay to some extent. And money can reduce stress in your life and get some other things. But this connection to people and seeing them develop and helping them in their career, that's the most fulfilling thing you can get. And this profession does that continually, and it's fun to see that happen every year.
Love that. So let's talk about your entrepreneurial experiences at Whitley Penn. First, I want you to share how the oil and gas department started, what role you played in that, and how has it progressed over time?
Yeah, that's Whitley Penn, accountants that are also entrepreneurial. That was in our tagline at some point. But that's the truth. We've always been a firm. As we grow, there's been partners that have had great ideas that have really created great service lines. You look at Tom Ryan in Fort Worth with the Wealth Management Group. It is amazing what we built over there. And that was really because he had the idea. He took the initiative, and he's developed a great team. Now he's got a generation behind him that are going to take that even to bigger platforms. So, I knew we always had that in our mind. I was doing a lot of oil and gas work at the time. I was a kind of a first-year audit partner in 2015. And I saw all these small private equity groups that didn't want to have accounting in-house. They would outsource it if they had the option, but there wasn't any good options. And as an auditor, I got to audit all these other outsourced accounting groups, and they just weren't that good. And so, I went to Felix and I said, we can do this better. Felix, being a great leader, said, okay, we will let you try it out. I hired one person in 2016, it was not easy at first, and I had to do a lot of the work plus all my audit work, and it was long nights, and it was stressful because I've never done this before, and I'm trying to be a controller, but I'm really an auditor, and I'm not operational, and so we definitely had some hiccups in the beginning. But fast forward to today, we have almost 30 people in the group, and we're doing, over $6 million in revenue just in that group, and we have just tremendous talent now that are operational controllers, and we couldn't do it without them. And so the team is so much better today than it was in the beginning, but it's really the folks we have now that are making it what it is, and I just feel fortunate to be able to start it years ago and having the support of our management committee.
Yeah. Did you ever dream it would be as big as it is? What, 6 years?
Not
new
that
service
quick,
line?
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, not that quick. I'll be excited once we are able to make our first partner in the group. And so, they'll kind of have their own world within there. And so once that happens, I think that will be a pretty exciting day.
That's awesome. And how much of your time is spent on the oil and gas side compared to accounting?
So, it's about 50-50. Still, I'm still involved more on the strategic and business development side for the oil and gas, a lot of client meetings, but I'm fortunate to have some great controllers that are running the day-to-day, and I couldn't do it without them.
Awesome. So a lot of folks may not know that you started here in Dallas, unless you said that, I can't remember, but you started here in Dallas as our first ever intern, promoted to partner pretty quickly. Tell us how many years that took and what allowed you to get to that goal in such a quick time.
Yeah, I started in Dallas as an intern in 2004, and then I started back full-time in, I think, June of 2005. And then I was promoted to partner in January 15. So about 9.5 years, which is pretty quick. But, really, I'd say at an early point in my career, I saw that if you can do good at business development, generate your own clients, you can control your destiny a little bit more. And we need all kinds of partners at this firm. We need partners that are better technically and better business development, better administration. So not one's more important than the other by any means, but business development, if I can generate my own book of business, I can make my timeline maybe a little quicker. And so I really grabbed onto that, and I just really enjoy it. I love going to talk to somebody about their business and them personally. And so anyway, I was fortunate to really have a lot of success there. I brought in my first client as a senior, which really it goes to show you that I was a senior and I was trying to connect my other buddy who worked at a bank and his boss, and we're just young kids out of school, and I'm trying to get 2 partners to go to lunch with 2 of his bosses. And if I was at a bigger firm, the partners I worked under would have been like, go back to work, right? Like, you're not trying to do business development 3 years out of your career. But the partners here were really encouraged, and they supported me. And even if they thought it was a pointless lunch, they still went, which is I'm thankful. But anyway, we ended up getting a client out of that, and that kind of got the bug. And I just started spending a lot of time and being very purposeful. And I was able to generate my own book of business, and that was very helpful. And to this day, I mean, that's something I love to do is business development. To be an accountant but also do sales, to me is pretty exciting. So I think that's probably the one thing that helped me advance. And also, like I said earlier, being willing to do the messy stuff.
Awesome. So staying on business development a little bit, it's not always the easiest thing for people. We love to start encouraging it for our young professionals, specifically starting at that intern level in hopes to get them excited for what's to come. So you mentioned that it maybe came a little bit more easily to you and you enjoyed that side of things. Do you have how have your strategies evolved over time, or any advice for people who don't know really where to start with business development, but know that's a great step in their career?
Yeah. I mean, I think be genuine, right? Don't be the guy just throwing around cards and asking for business. Try to personally connect to people and become friends with them. And business development, I don't think I coined this term, someone else did at the firm, but we're getting paid to go and make friends, right? We're getting paid to take people out to lunch and get to know them and know about their family and their kids and their interests and their business. And so I find that really enjoyable. I'm probably more of an introvert than people think, or maybe they do think that, I don't know. And so I don't necessarily like the big events. You got to do them early in your career to meet folks, but I'm more of a person, I want to take you to lunch. I want to go to a small group as a dinner. I want to spend that one-on-one time rather than trying to go to an event with 200 people and shake a bunch of hands. And so gravitate towards what you're good at and what you like, and really focus on that method, and then kind of hone it, and know that early in your career you are just planting seeds. That field will not be fruitful for many, many years. So don't go into it with the idea of success equals clients, right? Earlier in career, success just equals relationships. Get to know people you trust, people you like. Down the road, once you get further along, then the opportunities will develop from those relationships that you've had for 4, 5, 6 years. But if you start too late, now you're 5 years behind, and so it's really difficult.
Absolutely. Build those relationships now. And I love that that's such great advice business development looks different for so many people. So use what you're good at and gravitate towards that, and you can still make it happen just like anyone else. So kind of going back, you started here in Dallas. Well, then an opportunity comes up in Houston. Let's talk about what that was like, moving your entire family down to Houston, and what that thought process was behind that decision, changing, Dallas audit partner, going down to Houston audit partner. Yeah,
and I think one thing that Whitley Penn does well, which a lot of firms don't, is they don't try to force anything on anybody. Going to Houston was really an idea I had, and I approached management committee with, and I think that's always going to work better when someone actively pursues rather than, hey, we need someone in Houston, can you go? It's always better when someone kind of actively pursues it themselves. But anyway, so we had this new office in Houston, great office. They got this amazing public sector corporate group. They had a tax group that didn't do a lot of corporate work, but they really didn't have much corporate audit work. And so that's really been our bread and butter up here in Dallas. And so, and they had a lot of talent. We just recruited Brian Starr from another firm, Jeff Edwards, Amanda Beabout. So a lot of talent, but we needed more corporate work. And that is such a massive market. And at the time, I already had some clients in Houston. Most of my clients were energy. So it just made sense for me to be there, and I could instantly transplant some business. And so in my head, it all just made sense to give it a little bit of a kickstart. It worked out phenomenal, and that office has grown really well, and the oil and gas group down there has done well too. But it's all the people we were able to hire. It goes back to the talent. I mean, you look at that office, there's just so many great professionals, and we had a lot of opportunity come in, and, it's not just that we had the opportunity, but it's that we really accomplished great client service once it came to us. And so when you have great client service and you're a new guy in town, man, you do good work and it just kind of explodes quickly, and that's kind of what happened down there the last 4 years. And I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited that we made Jeff Edwards a partner down there, so I was excited to have kind of a new partner, and Lupe met a few years ago. So, Tommy Bird, and so there's just a lot of great talent there, and I'm excited for the other folks that will be partners in down there too.
And you had the opportunity to see that and kind of make it happen for yourself. So I think that's really exciting. So did you, going down there, becoming a partner in a different market, were there any obstacles you experienced maybe that you weren't necessarily anticipating taking on a big opportunity? And if so, how'd you overcome those?
I mean, it's definitely tough, right? I've been in this Dallas market. I grew up in the suburbs of Dallas, but, outside of, going to college at Texas Tech, I've been in Dallas all my life, except the last 5 years in Houston. So you just naturally have some network that you can start a foundation with. Going down to Houston, it's like, you don't have that. So instantly, you got to start leveraging other ways. I'm very fortunate that I had a lot of good clients in Houston or in Dallas that knew people in Houston, and so I really just pinged everyone I knew in Dallas and said, "Hey, I'm making this move. I need your help. Who can you introduce me to and help me?" And so there was a lot of great initial introductions that happened that helped us land some new clients. And then also it's just, working hard. I made cold calls. I would Google energy private equity, and then I would just reach out to the CFO and try to get an appointment. And it worked in some instances, and some it didn't. So, it was challenging, but, I was fortunate that we had enough success early that it kept on motivating me and the rest of the team. And so, and Houston's wide open for business. It's one city where there's a lot of transplants. And so it doesn't matter where you grew up, where you went to school, or whatever, because half the people there didn't grow up there. So everyone's going to open up for new business opportunities.
Awesome. So there's been tremendous growth in Houston, and I know it certainly takes a team. So what excites you most about that market and the opportunities there for professionals at all levels?
Yeah, I would say I think that office can be 300 people easy. We're about 110 today. I think we're about 50 or so when I got down there. And so the potential for what it could be, I think, is very exciting. And the amount of young talent we have is tremendous, and our turnover is very low. And so we're keeping all that talent. And so I'm just excited to see those guys continue their career. We got a very close group. All the departments get along really well. And so it's just, I think, a really, just like all of our offices, it's a great environment. And so I'm happy that we're providing some good opportunity for the young folks there.
Yeah, it's certainly about the environment that you create. So connecting with people is huge, especially in our industry and for our client service professionals. And a big part of making connections is knowing your brand. What would you say your brand is, and what's most important to you?
I just try to be genuine, right? I tell everyone when you're networking, if you don't like the person, don't network with them, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you think you're going to get business from them. You got to be genuine. Don't force it. Don't just do it for the wrong reasons. Be around people you really like. Your friend circle should also be your networking circle to some extent, because you like being around them. You have similar things in common. And so that's really what I focus on. And it's a lot more fun when you have clients that you genuinely like to be around, rather than, people that you just do it for the work. So that's one thing. I just really try to be candid and honest and genuine. And, the thing I struggle with sometimes, I'm sure people in the Houston office would laugh when they see it, is like, sometimes I can be very robotic, because I have this list of to-dos in my mind, and I just got to get off the elevator. I got to go to my office. I got to get this done, and so I struggle to take the time, have the small talk, and make sure you're spending time with everybody. And so one thing I'm trying to be better about that. We all have things we have to improve on. So I need to slow down sometimes and disconnect from the task list and just spend more time with our internal folks. But that's one thing right now I think I'm trying to do more of.
So you're telling me accountants tend to be type A's, list makers.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's right.
You got to have it. So has your brand evolved over time? Have you changed? Certainly probably not your values, but even as you've progressed at each level, has that looked different?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think early in my career, I was like, man, I'm going to show up to every meeting in a suit and tie, even though no one else does, because you can never be overdressed, but I didn't want to be underdressed, but I just want, it's like an easy way to look like you're trying to be professional. And I was like, I don't know if it matters, but it's something easy to do. And so I would show up to these client, planning call or meetings, probably overdressed, but I thought it was like, and then now I'm like, you know what, I'm just probably a little more casual. So there's things that evolve and maybe aren't important, but sometimes at an early stage in your career, there's little things you can do that make you look maybe a little more professional, a little more experienced. I just try to be a little more candid. It's hard. You're in a leadership role, and to some extent, you feel like you can't fully pull back the curtain because you gotta. You can't let them see you sweat and this and that. And so, you got to be human and honest and open. But you also, people got to trust that, the ship is being steered by the steady captain. So there's always a balance there.
It's probably harder as you progress as a leader, right? Balancing both sides of that. So let's get to know Nathen better. Tell us what a partner in charge does outside of the office with your free time.
Wife and kids first. I got a beautiful, wonderful wife and two daughters, 8 and 6, Sadie and Emerson. I try to spend as much time with them. That is the first and most important thing. And we have a lot of fun together. I mean, we're probably, we enjoy, one of my girls, bike rides, crafting, and a lot of Uno, some Scrabble. The oldest is getting there, some Monopoly. Big gamers, anything competition. Me personally, I'm like, my wife would joke, I'm like micro hobbies. I kind of like pick something, check the box, and then move on to the next. And so, that was like marathons, and then it became triathlons, and then I did an Ironman, and then it was, okay, now and then I recently bought a guitar. And so I'm always kind of switching to something, trying to stay, active in something. I'd say my wife jokes that the guitar is the one thing you can do forever and not be like you can't accomplish it, right? You can just get better and better. So she's curious how long we'll stick with it because, sometimes I like to complete the task, go on to the next. And so that's one I've been doing for 6 months. And I'll tell you what, man, it is so hard. And I still feel like I know nothing, but, I'm trying to stick with it.
Well, it sounds like you like to challenge yourself.
That's right. Always. It's good for the mind. You got to have hobbies outside of work.
Well, I'm glad Uno, Monopoly, and Scrabble are still games that kids want to play.
Well, maybe just our kids. I don't know. But we try to put down the TV as much as possible, but that's hard too.
That's good. Game nights are good. So if you could be doing anything else professionally right now, what would you be doing and why?
Oh, man, I don't know. I love business, so I think it'd be fun if you had access to capital and all you did is kind of, look at businesses and invest in them or help them out, this and that. But outside of that, I'd say being a professor. I think that would be just extremely fulfilling. Spending time with students at young age and hopefully molding them the right way. I look back and I think there's some professors that man, they made an impact on a lot of students. And there's some that students don't even remember. So I think it'd be fun and it's somewhat what you get to do here in this profession. You get to, mold professionals in their career. But I think that would be just really, really fulfilling.
Well, Texas Tech, you heard it here first.
That's
Nathen
right.
McEown's ready to come back and
professor.
teach.
That's right.
What would you teach?
I don't know. Anything business related or accounting. I'd probably teach accounting 20 minutes of class and the rest 25 just talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Like Herschel Mann, but yeah, I'd probably be hard to stay on topic, but it'd be fun.
I'm sure you'd make a great teacher and get great reviews.
That's
so
right.
Maybe 10 years down the road, we'll see you teaching. But I guess you get to do some of that, being on campus development and getting to interact with students and watching our interns evolve and come back full time. So you're kind of getting to see that side of things still too.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So Trends are always changing, updating, evolving. How do you stay updated on new trends, and what resources do you rely on to keep you up to speed with what's going on, and how to stay connected either within your industry or just as a professional and a leader?
Yeah, I mean, I would say not everyone necessarily has access to this, but if you have access to sit down with other leaders, whether that's leaders of other people in your profession or leaders of others, your clients or people in the industry, whatever it is, always sit down with a leader and pick their brain. I always, in Houston, I try to have lunch or breakfast with a lot of the managing partners of other firms. And for me, that's really just to see, okay, what's going on in their world, and do they have the same challenges we are? And it doesn't have to be this competitive mentality. It can be a, hey, how can we help each other? So I love doing that. I try to do that with a lot of the managing partners in Houston and of other offices or smaller firms. And then, with the CEOs of my clients, I always like to sit with them and really get to know, okay, what are you seeing in the industry and what should I be aware of? And so if you have access to some of those folks, whether it's through business relationships or family relationships or whatever it is, always sit down with the leader and just pick their brain and see what they think's going on. Next, podcasts. I mean, you can become an expert in anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's podcasts on everything out there. I'm a big podcast guy. I listen to a lot of different ones, whether I'm running or driving or whatever it is. I mean, music. I do like music, but it just it doesn't, like, podcasts feed me a little bit more. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. And then third, I mean, there's a lot of groups that do this, I think, but Skim, SKIMM, has like a daily digest of the news. Mm-hmm. I'm not one necessarily to pick up the newspaper every day and read it, but I can digest that skim, click on some links, go deep diver if I want, or dive deeper if I want to. Mm-hmm. But that skim does like a really quick. Any professional should be reading something really quick every day, so you don't miss. So you're not in a meeting and they're like, oh, did you hear about this big event? You're like, oh man, I didn't know about it. So you're always aware of what's going on. So I mean, I definitely check that every day.
Yeah, I love that. I've been doing the morning brew, another one that you get to your email, and it's just quick stories, and then you got all the highlights. So how do you show up for your team? Is it different how you show up for maybe your team as an audit partner compared to the partner in charge of the office? But let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you're always got a different hat depending on what you're doing. As the partner in charge of the office, I mean, I have great partners in that office. They all run their business individually. I'm not sure how much I help them. I just try to guide the ship a little bit and make maybe some administrative tasks easier on them. But I try to be more of a mentor and encouragement role, trying to help people, whether that's place them with the right client or encourage them to go after this, and so that's a different role than, in my, as an audit partner, there is a different role with that team, and, maybe it's more focused on help make sure the team develops and progresses and more technically driven or, industry focused. So it's a different hat for sure. I think no matter who you're dealing with, you're always got to twist it a little bit. But it's just it's exciting to have roles like that. I get to do the campus development with you, which you do an amazing job. So, I just get to show up. You do all the true work, but it's fun to be around students. It's fun to be excited about your career, and no matter what hat you get to wear, what leadership, get excited about it and be excited. And so, all of our younger staff, whether it's a training that you're giving to other staff or whatever it is, really put time into it rather than just like, throw together some slides and read through them. Try to make it entertaining. Try to make it exciting. Whatever it is, do your best with it, because people will notice. And also notice if you're just kind of, going through, just motionless going through it just to get it done. So I think it's nice to be given those roles and have that opportunity.
And that's why you're going to make a great professor after your
that's right.
after your public accounting days are done. So how would your little girls describe Dad and the type of leader you are?
I don't know if they think me as a leader. They probably think I'm too goofy to be a leader. I mean, at work, maybe sometimes I can be too stiff just because of the rigidness of the job, and just anybody at work, you probably have a little bit of a guard up. But at home, I say with my daughters, my wife, I'm probably 100% guards down, so they get to see me do the goofy stuff. whether it's dancing with them or singing or doing something silly. So they probably think of me as silly, goofy, off the wall person. And to see me a little stiffer at work, I'm sure it'd be surprising for them. They probably also think I'm impatient because I do get, it's like, put your shoes on, let's go. And then they're like talking and hanging out. And I'm like, no, let's accomplish the task. Get your shoes on, focus. And so they probably see that side a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, they're awesome. I mean, having 2 girls is a blessing, and I don't know if I'll mess it up till 20 years down the road, but I think we're doing a good job. And they both have very different personalities. My 8-year-old is the thinker, and she'll say things that was like, man, are you 20? I mean, like the other day she told me one of her biggest fears was not having enough money. And I'm like, what? You're 8. Like, you were fine. Like, what is giving you this? So I don't know if opening a bank account for her in first grade was a good idea, but she's very just always thinking outside of the box and has adult questions, whereas our 6-year-old is off the wall, and she's kind of our honey badger, we call her. She should care less about anything serious, and she's just having fun. So it's fun to see them both evolve together.
I love that. Well, we're gonna have to bring your kids to work day back. I feel like I did that growing up. I remember going with my mom and dad, but I don't know if they still do that. So that might be fun. Maybe you can do that in the Houston office.
That's right.
So lastly, what inspires you the most, and any last advice for our audience?
I don't know. Me, inspiration is definitely my family. Everything I do is to make sure that they're comfortable and don't have, that very stable environment and don't have to worry about things in the future. So that's kind of my why for sure. I would say advice is just whether it's personal or at work or whatever it is, like everything is controllable, whether you think it's not. I know life throws you curves, but how you handle that and react, it is changeable, whether that's your mindset or how you take on the challenge. It's really sit down and be thoughtful and, be the change agent in your own life. Don't wait for things to happen. If you do that, you'd be shocked how much you can control. But if you're sitting back and waiting things for to happen, then you're not really truly in control of whether that's personal or your work life.
Love that. Any books you're reading right now?
I'm not a big book person. Okay. More of a book on tape while I run or podcast person. But I'd say podcast, I'm listening to Dax Shepard has a good one, Armchair Expert, I think it's called. Anyway, he has a lot of good, thoughtful conversations with folks, and that one's pretty good. And there's another one, I think it's called Interviewing Billionaires, and they have some interesting people on there. And that one's more business related, but that one's pretty good too.
Love that. Podcasts are efficient. I love them.
Very efficient and digestible, easy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Nathen, for joining me today. I loved our conversation, and you really do inspire so many of us. I know you've certainly been a great resource to me here at Willie Penn, and I look forward to continuing learning and working with you.
I'm excited to be here, and Danielle, you do a lot for the firm, and I appreciate everything you do and putting the Develop program together and Fit With and everything else. I mean, you're doing a lot, and we're lucky to have you.
Well, thank you. It's awesome, and I love what I get to do. And as always, you guys, I'd love to connect with each one of you on LinkedIn and engage with you all as you are developing in your careers. And I know Nathen would love to connect with you all as well. So please reach out and make sure to listen and share this podcast if it provided you value. And we look forward to being back with you soon.